You're listening to We Deepen Media.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Deepen with Christina. I'm your host, Christina Weber, founder and CEO of We Deepen and Feminine Weapon, and also a certified love coach for anybody who wants to deepen in your relational journey, whether you're currently single or with a significant other, or you are navigating the expansion of your social circle and into community. Go to wedeepen.com and you can book a discovery session with me or a member of our team as well. If you do enjoy this podcast, please do subscribe, like, follow, rate. It helps more people to find it and helps us to continue to record it. Also, the calendar, wedeepen.com, go check it out. You'll see lots of Tantra Speed dates happening. There are retreats if you're listening before December of 2023. Bhakti Love Fest has announced their dates of 2023 at October 13th through the 15th in California. If you want to get away and do a love festival in 2023, I'm putting that on your calendar right now. Also, the Experience House is happening in Morocco, March 15th through April 2nd. You can go live in a dope house in Morocco with amazing people who are all experienced designers in some way, shape, or form. When you're over on that calendar in the top right-hand corner, you can create a profile and be part of the We Deepen member directory. That will give you access to everyone inside of that community, which is a bunch of early adopters at this moment in time. There's probably about 400 people there. These are people who have journeyed through experiences like the Dating Dojo, Unleash, the Magic of Human Connection, Mind Travel, Tantra Speed Date, and many others that We Deepen represents. You can direct message each other. There's interest groups in development. We're going to be launching some courses on relationships and love in the new year. So definitely check that out. And lastly, if you are interested in private matchmaking is something great for somebody who essentially is very much focused on their work, or there's something in their life that is restricting of their time, and it's coupled with relationship coaching. I always recommend, if you have deep spaciousness in your life, go for the relationship coaching, and you can just do that and you can do your own matchmaking. But if it's something that you, again, are an entrepreneur or building some type of company or caring for somebody in your life that takes you away from the time, the matchmaking is great for you. Otherwise, relationship coaching, again, you can see all that at wedeepen.com. So today I have brought back one of my favorite guests who you have come to know and love. If you have listened to this podcast, I believe this is her 5th time on Deepen with Christina. And you could even rewind to some episodes of your Love Accomplice and find Yarixa there as well. Yari is the founder and creator of Unleash. Unleash began as a 4-hour guided dance journey in Los Angeles in 2018 and has expanded to become a 3-day transformational festival. She also hosts retreats and does private coaching as well as group coaching programs. And today, her and I are going to share about the top 14 healing modalities that have helped us and continue to help us. And why I was interested in going here and sharing this is because it's around asking for help. Both Yadi and I we're entrepreneurs, and we are seen as leaders in our communities. And I may support people in relationships, but doesn't mean that I know everything. We're essentially sharing our wisdom based upon both Yadi and I are now 41 together. Yadi just had a birthday. And yeah, of these modalities, it's even a reminder for me because I get in my shit sometimes as well. We're just human beings. And these are the resources that we go to. And I actually even get to do a better job of going to them. I remember months ago, a friend of mine, Steven, had said to me, you know, the podcasts that I really like about the people who are recording and stuff are the ones who are really vulnerable and open of like that really deep, authentic stuff. And I'm like, okay, so you want me to talk about the really shitty stuff that happens in my life? He's like, yes, talk about that. And so sometimes when you're in these positions of, you know, me, I've raised funding, I've been in charge of teams, and it's really hard sometimes to be like, hey guys, I'm fucked up right now. And not fucked up, but you know what I mean? Like I'm having an experience that's challenging, and who do I turn to help me? Because I'm the one helping people most of the time. So to remind us all of these modalities, and I'm going to just run through the list real quick and then invite Yadi into this conversation. So 1, coaching; 2, therapy; 3, EFT, emotional freedom technique; 4, EMDR; 5 is self-discovery modalities like the Gene Keys, Human Design, Aboutly. I'll talk to you a little bit about that, but those modalities that help you better understand yourself in relation to other people are super, super helpful. 6 is healthy friendships and community, and also going to places that help you to experience that, whether it's a program like MITT Landmark or a transformational festival like Unleash. 7, psychedelics. 8, body talk. 9, NLP, which is represented through this product that I just got on a Black Friday special, Brain Tap. It's a headset that actually takes you through light therapy and sound therapy, a meditative experience. So NLP. 10, theta healing. 11, somatic healing. 12, dancing, singing, movement. Include breath work inside of that experience. It's your moving energy through your body. 13 is couple this, the massage and meditation. I don't know if some of these shouldn't necessarily be coupled as one, but massage and meditation. And number 14 is actually one for me that is personal and most recent. It's removing alcohol and cannabis from my life. And that's a new thing that I have released, the cannabis. And while I share this, it's not to shame anybody who has a relationship with substances, because they are all experiences that are with us for a period of time. And for me, of the releasing of it is when I started to shame my own self for that experience, is when I knew it was time to move. And it was a multi-year experience with cannabis. So yeah, those are the modalities that we're going to cover today. And Yadi, I know, I've recently become a certified coach. And you have been coaching from movement, beginning with movement, and then through the mind. That's actually how we met, is that you were coaching me after I had a concussion. So can we start with the power of coaching? And welcome to another episode of Deepen with Christina.
I love it so much. I love you so much. Thank you for having me again. And I love this vulnerable talk and share. And I do agree with your friend that told you that about sharing vulnerably. I think it's really powerful. I think it's relatable. And I think that the more we can have a connection, specifically with leaders as well, to know that we're kind of all playing the same game here, and we're all equal. It's just that there's certain roles that we take on and choose to take on, and that have quite a bit of responsibility, if you will, whenever you choose a leadership position, and you have a lot of eyes on you consistently as well. And so you want to be sure to be response able, and able to respond, to the people that are following your lead. and essentially, and I definitely started off with movement first, and it started with me initially becoming a fitness bodybuilder. At the age of 19, I competed, and it took my own body first. So I had to take myself through the experience to then understand that I wanted to do coaching for people. And I wanted to coach them to have a better body and have a healthy body. And through that experience, I also got to learn that the singular approach of just the nutrition and dietetics of it was not cutting it. I knew that there had to be a different way, because I remember having the body and getting the body, and I was still feeling miserable. So I was like, there has to be something else. And that's what opened me up to spirituality and mindfulness. And I got to understand very quickly that most people's issues with their bodies had to do a lot more with their belief systems, with their programming, with their wounds, with their traumas. And the nutrition and dietetics portion of it was to assist it, but essentially it had to all become one. And through that, through the coaching of like, even getting to ask people, are your thoughts light or heavy? And, does that thing that you just said, does that worry piece of information you gave me, or that judgment, or that grudge, how does that feel in your body? Does that feel light or heavy to you? And when they started to understand that a lot of their beliefs were heavy, then they began to understand why their body is reflecting that. And then how can we shift those thoughts, right? And one of the modalities that I use the most now is EFT, which we touched upon, right? And EFT is emotional freedom technique. And what that does is it frees your emotions by actually going to the painful parts that you have swept under the rug and that you've rejected, or the parts of you that you've rejected, that you've deemed bad or wrong or not lovable. And when I can take somebody to love these parts of themselves, or get to feel the pain that they never actually felt, then a person can release the emotion and then move on, because it actually does rewire the brain. So emotional freedom technique is one of those techniques that's clinically proven to actually rewire the brain. And some of the other modalities that you mentioned here as well, such as like NLP, body talk, these are modalities that do rewire the brain. And I will say that movement and dancing rewires the brain. And movements such as dance, because it's so amplified, right? It's non-linear. When you're dancing, it's non-linear. So you're actually like in an arm movement that's like, let's say circular, and it goes beyond the normal ways of you typing on your phone or being on your computer, and it expands your neural pathway. Your brain also will open up to something new that it couldn't have opened to before. That's why when you dance, first of all, you might experience some of the insecurities, some of your shadows, some of the things that will come up for you in your dance, because you're touching upon crevices that haven't been touched on before. And at the same time, you're opening up to a new way of creation and creativity. So simultaneously, your brain is doing all sorts of things, and you can either shut down in your dance and decide to like stop dancing because of the shadows that showed up for you, or you continue to move through it. And with the movement, it rewires in real time. It like re-anchors you in real time when you can move past it and keep dancing, and then you keep opening, right? It's like you got to feel it to heal it. And I really do believe in that. And out of all the modalities, in my opinion, that are pretty easy access, meaning that you can turn on a piece of music at your house at any moment in time and dance to 3 songs of your choice. Like, that's one of the easiest access points to you shifting your reality and rewiring your brain, because the only person that will move for you is you. Like, nobody's gonna like manually move you in ways, right? And while I love the coaching aspects of it, and I think it's so helpful and so important to get support in these ways. I think on a daily basis, you're not going to have a coach or a therapist on a daily basis with you unless you have a shit ton of money, right? Or you live with somebody who's continuously able to hold that kind of space for you. And eventually that probably won't work, because energetically it may be draining for the other person. So, what I'm saying is that, dancing is something that's accessible, or movement in general, or singing is something that's accessible. And I'll also mention this part of the singing. I know I'm kind of going on a rant here, but bear with me, is the singing really touches on the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve can regulate your nervous system and de-stresses you. And in the de-stress and the relaxation of you can receive new downloads and new ideas. And I will share that for me, I took a singing lesson recently, and not really singing as in the technicality, but more of a voice activation with a woman coach that her name is Jade Fusco here in Austin, Texas. And I just want to give a shout out to her, because she's also going to be part of my retreat and doing voice activation for my retreat. And so I was doing a lesson with her because singing has been one of my biggest fears. And what I always say to people is lean into your fears and follow your highest excitement. So I take my own medicine and I lean into my fears about singing. And here I am singing and chanting with her. And as I'm singing and chanting, and this is the part about the crevices that are sort of swept under the rug, what started to happen was that she started to sing certain words, and the memorization piece of singing the words that she was singing brought me back to a memory. So it took me down memory lane of when I was 5 years old, and a teacher had given me a piece of poetry to recite and told my mom, hey, have your daughter memorize this by tomorrow, and she's going to be reciting it for this thing we're doing, this event that we're having here at school. And I was sort of pedestaled as a child to be this brilliant child. And so they had this high expectation that I could just take that long ass piece of poetry, memorize it, and deliver it. And so my mom put me to do it, and I just was like, okay, I'll do it. I was put up for the test and the challenge, and through my brilliance is also how I felt that I would be loved. And that's how my parents kind of coached me unknowingly. And so my mom forgot to give me the piece of poetry the day before. So she gave it to me the morning of. I memorized it. I set the whole thing in the car on the way to school. And then when I went on stage, I completely blanked. And then all of a sudden I found myself on that stage, and immediately I just went running to my mom and gave her a hug, and like, I forgot. And she's like, what happened? And I'm like, I just forgot. And ever since that day, I believed that I wasn't good at memorizing, and therefore I must not be good at performing. Therefore, I must not ever do anything that requires me to memorize, because I would fail at it. And it stopped me in a lot of ways from being the artist that I have become now. It just took a long time of using a lot of modalities to kind of peel back these layers, right? But singing brought me to that space. And then we did EFT tapping around it. And then I was able to love this little girl that felt really scared. And in the EFT tapping around it, I was able to name the embarrassment that I felt, to actually feel the fear that I felt, to feel my inadequacy, to feel all of these feelings that I didn't feel at the time because it was just like such a shock to my system. I bottled it up, as we all do, and internalized it. And then it becomes stored trauma. And then that's what runs our show. And as Bruce Lipton talks about, Dr. Bruce Lipton, definitely Google him. He talks about, the subconscious mind really being what runs our show. And 95% of the way that we operate in everyday life comes from the subconscious mind. It means that you're not conscious or aware of these little tiny things that happen to you, and the way that you behave has a lot to do with that subconscious running your show. The conscious mind comes into play when something like that happens, where you sing, you bring back a memory, and then you consciously love and accept it, and you consciously give it the space to breathe, give it the space to be, so that you can shift your reality and recognize, oh yeah, I am an artist. I am able to memorize. I am able to kind of rewire the whole thought pattern that you had from the past. So that's just an example of most of these modalities are to help you rewire the subconscious mind, and so that you can bring it to conscious awareness and act and behave differently.
So much. I love your rampages of when you just go into a train of thought and share from there. And there's lots that I picked up from that. One of the first things I was thinking as you were coming to a close is around leadership, where we talked around of like asking for support and help and putting, specific like leaders on pedestals and not realizing, hey, they're all having their human experience. And with you, and me in some sense, but you're a leader because you actually share your processes. And that story of singing with Jade, I saw on social media of a clip that's broadcast in that experience where you break down and start to cry. And I had known that story that you had as a child and that home. And I was like, oh, wow, that's, working through these deeper levels, and these modalities that we pick up to support throughout the journey are all unique at, we can choose them at different times. It's like a smorgasbord. It's like, oh my God, let's try this one. Let's try this one. This one is really working good for me at this phase. Even that, I say the cannabis right now is like no cannabis, but at a time, cannabis could be on my list as a healing modality. And in the, where was I? So of you having that experience and everyone being able to see that, oh my God, I think I'm losing my train of thought.
Well, you were talking about Jade and being able to witness me in my breakdown. That's what you were talking about on the video that you were able to see. And that's why, I think you said that's why I'm a leader, because I share from a very vulnerable space.
Yeah, you're leading from sharing from that vulnerable space, and we're all able to see that. And
I also want to say this. I'm not sure if it's because also the theme that I chose to lead in, right? Because we all have the deep wound is what we turn into power, right? Like our pain, we turn it into power. And my deepest pain was not being free, right? And so therefore I created Unleash. And if you think about the word unleash, it means that I'm out there, exposed, free. And I believe the part of the reason that I continue to show up so vulnerably is because that's what I'm here to teach, is how to liberate yourself from any and all constructs, including that of leadership, right? Even showing leaders like such deep spaces of vulnerability that oftentimes leaders don't think that they can be in. And so I think I naturally do it because it's the thing that I came here to teach. And I feel like I radically show up vulnerably in ways that I haven't necessarily seen other leaders do. It's such like I remember one time that I was being interviewed by Sahara Rose, and she has also a dope podcast, but she went to one of my unleashes. And one of the things I spoke about at that unleash was going into bankruptcy. While I'm there on stage leading, I'm like, oh yeah, guys. And by the way, I think I'm going into bankruptcy, right? It's like it's at such levels of uncomfortability that the things that I talk about sometimes that are liberating for me, for sure. And I would encourage more vulnerability from leaders to show their humanness and to show that level of relatability. And, I guess we get to discern as to how much of ourselves we show. But given that I am the Unleashed Queen, well, you're going to see a shitload of things that you probably normally wouldn't see. And in the hopes to also give the permission slip. Like, I guess I'll be the front runner, for it. And I'll take one for the team.
I remember years ago of somebody when I was doing a Feminine Weapon Day, and the 10th annual Feminine Weapon Day is coming up January 30th of 2023. And there was one year somebody had said to me, I love it that we all get to watch. You have no clue what you're doing. And I was like, wait, you can tell that I have no clue what I'm doing. And they're like, oh yeah, we can see that you're just making it all up as you go along. And I was like, oh, okay, great. Happy to be the guinea pig of that. I realized where I lost my train of thought, and it's interesting to even go back to think as we were moving through these experiences. Like, I think there's a little of sometimes that, oh my God, I won't know what to say. I don't know what to say. And how Unleashed Queen and We Deepen Feminine Weapon, there's like a deepening inside of that, and even giving the stillness to come back and to get to the thought and having the space to get to the thought. And I was thinking around the whole smorgasbord, it reminded me of your story. There's a great TED talk on rejection of a guy had a similar experience as a child where, the teacher had this great idea of a game where the kids would shout out names and invite shares. And it got down to like the last 3 kids in the class and 2 kids in the class, and then his name was never called. And he carried that story throughout, and he had this desire to be an entrepreneur and to be super successful. But every time he would get into the room and he would get so close to it, he would sabotage it because he never was good enough to be remembered. And so he, the whole smorgasbord of like, well, what do we do with that, having that experience, and how do we heal from that experience? And he went through a process of asking for unrealistic things out in the world that seemed unrealistic to overcome objection. So for example, he went to a neighbor's house and knocked on the door and asked if he could plant a flower in their backyard. And the neighbor's like, no. No. And then as he went through the journey, he learned to ask why. Oh, why can I do this? Why? And in the why is what he began to understood. And for that flower example, he, asked her why. And she's like, oh, well, I have a dog and he digs up everything in the backyard. And so, across the street is Sarah Jane. I think she would really like the flower in her backyard. And so as his journey, and he started to heal that he realized it wasn't personal about him. And so that's where there's whole smorgasbord of that you can take into. And sometimes these experiences like coaching or learning about your personality or psychedelic will actually lead you through an adventure and a journey that helps you go on a deeper healing that is guided through whatever portal that is opened up in your brain.
Totally. And I want to add to, like, I think why we're also touching upon this is, like, you know, don't be too good to not receive healing, right? Like, don't put yourself on such a pedestal or in such a place that you are not giving yourself what you need based on what other people may perceive about you, right? And I think sometimes we create these stories of, you know, why not to get healing, and to allow yourself to get to that space of like, hey, I actually need support in XYZ, and really seek out, okay, who or what could support me in this particular realm. And if you're a leader listening to this, right, and if you're somebody who leads the way, I think just to continue to have the student hat on, because we are ever learning, and we're always becoming. There's never a time that we just were it and we did it and we're done, right? It's a constant evolution, and to give ourselves that freedom and that permission to continue to evolve and not get stuck at a role, because that can be really limiting. And then you don't give your best self to others just because you're not opening to more.
It's, well, I mean, you nailed essentially why I wanted to record the podcast, because you talk about the things that you need. And this is for me too, and my own reminder of inviting the support and help. And there can be so many different illusions of why we don't get support. Number one, sometimes we think that it's too expensive. Another is that, again, and I think it's interesting of the leadership. If you even look at leadership in our country and our world, I befriended the senator of Washington, D.C. Well, it's a shadow senator. There's no senator. So I befriended him during COVID, and I was inviting him to, ayahuasca ceremonies, and we'd giggle. And I said to him one day, Paul, I see that, the people in there's like this transformational movement happening, and my friends and I, are all having coaches, and we're going to medicine work, and we're doing a lot of this healing and this up-leveling. And as a politician in our country, and do you see that is happening amongst the political leaders of our time? And he pretty much laughed at me and was like, oh no, if you go into the Senate, they're all just throwing their traumas all over and up against each other. No, that's not happening there. And it is a little of because I can feel it too at times, there is ego inside of it. It's totally ego. And I'll say ego in the sense, I remember years ago, a teacher had said to me when I had a deep fear over a decade ago, I had a deep fear of public speaking. And he was like, your ego. We talked about this in one of our last podcasts together too, is, your ego is so big. And inside of these experiences, it's like almost that we get painted into into this person. Who is it? I have a friend of mine who's a coach, and he really wants to coach Kanye West. And, part of us are kind of giggling and laughing like, okay, Kanye has this thing that he's like, he won't talk to anybody who makes less money than he does, is one of Kanye's things. But we also think of people like that.
That could be limiting, that could be a limiting belief, because sometimes we don't actually know who's in the room that could totally help us and doesn't have the exact qualities that you think you need, right? It's like giving yourself the allowance to be surprised also by people.
Yeah. I mean, it could be the mother of 7 in a room who is a caretaker, and that's the role that she plays. And yeah, so not closing ourselves off to having those conversations and to reveal, because even in order to seek help, you have to actually reveal the things that you need help with. And sometimes even knowing of what you need help with too. And you can see it through the signs that happen are happening in your existence. One of the
Christina, can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Can we get vulnerable?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to answer this too. Okay. By the way, I'm going to get vulnerable. What do you need support in? What are the areas in your life that you currently feel that you need support in?
Thank you for asking the question. And for me right now, it's an experience of leadership. So We Deepen, if I rewind to before, COVID 2020, before COVID happened, like we were in an accelerated growth. We had raised around a seed funding. We had an office. I was growing a team. And then when COVID happened, it all like combusted. And now the momentum is building again. And there's a little bit of hesitancy inside of me of like, oh gosh, do right this time and lead, like use what happened in the past of the stories of where I see myself, I don't want to call it failed as a leader, but see where I could have been better as a leader. And so there's, right now I'm having the experience of like, okay, I need to write job descriptions, really deep, like job descriptions. But then there's like I don't know, how do I do this? How do I lead people? Like I've been, and Aspen, who's one of my advisors, you're going to meet her in the follow-up episode because she's going to do an episode with Charles Eisenstein and we record this week. And so, Aspen's right there beside me. And it's also though she's called me out in the story. It's like you have this lonely entrepreneur journey. Oh, I'm always by myself. Nobody's here to support me. Nobody knows. But then I realized, oh, the reason that is because you're not directing them in a way. And I see the call out for people of being like, hey, I want to join a team, but in order to join a team, you have to guide me and tell me what to do so I can be successful. Clarity is kindness. So I need to be very clear on how I'm directing. And there's this fear that's coming up of like, oh, do I know how to be super clear? Oh, I have all this stuff going on in my head. Like, how am I going to tell this all to some other person so they get it? And then at the same time, and then by Zoom, because we're remote working and like, oh my God, this sounds really scary. And I'm going to go lay in bed because...
Is there a person that can support you in creating clear roles?
Aspen. Yes, she is supporting me in creating the clear roles. And it's even almost, although she's right standing there like, hey, I'm here to help. There's a thing inside of me that still almost feels like the lone wolf experience inside of. By the way, we did EFT, emotional freedom technique. Yadi spoke very specific about that modality in episode 14. So if you're interested in that, go back and check out episode 14. We go specifically into it.
Right, because there's something, right, that you need the support of team and creating these roles. And Aspen, as you just spoke about, is right there waiting for you to be like, hey, Aspen, I'm ready to receive your tools and your nuggets.
And here's where sometimes it gets away. Aspen invested in We Deepen. She put in $50,000 in January of 2020. So it's like almost that being the CEO of the company that she invested in, like, oh my gosh, you have to like live up to this, like make sure she gave a good investment and give a return on investment. And like so there is still that story of like, she's there to help, but like, you got to be perfectly ready for her help. Like be perfect going into it, have everything ready and dotted and show. So
yeah. And then it's like, well, where did you learn that you needed to be perfect? Right. And this is where the EFT and these NLP modalities come in, because right in that statement of, her thinking about her in a certain light that then puts thoughts in you that you need to show up in a certain way because you've defined and made meaning of what it means that she gave you the $50,000. Why would you be asking the person that gave you $50,000, right, for advice on what to do and how to create roles, right? And we get caught in these stories. And there may be something, I'm not saying that there necessarily is a story about you having to be perfect or show up perfectly, but there may be. And this is where the techniques of unblocking the subconscious mind that are running your show that haven't allowed for the help that you need.
And also I realized, who's saying that I'm not perfect? Like, yeah. I mean, because the thing is, like, we talk about this perfection, like everything is perfect in every moment. The perfection is also even in the not knowing and even in the growing and feeling of the growing pains. So I'm in this experience of like, oh, wow, I'm feeling the growing pains of momentum is happening again. I'm getting resumes galore of people who want to work for the organization. And it's so exciting. And I'm also feeling this restriction of like, oh my God, I'm not ready for their support. I need to get more buttoned up and ready for their support because I need to lead them. So then it's like, feels like I'm pushing them away. And then I'm like, oh, but don't lose them. Don't lose them. And as you're getting ready. And then I have another advisor who's like, just do it. Start closing all the clients and just get it all done because you have this pipeline and everything is great. And just do it. Why are you sabotaging? And I'm like, oh my God, all these voices. And then it goes back to like all these voices and I'm by myself.
And this is why you created We Deepen. And this is why you created a company and an organization around deepening relationships through authentic relating, right? Through a level of intimacy of into me, I see, right? And getting to know these like little finessing, really, because it's just finessing that gets to happen with these thought patterns that show up, right? But in this particular case with Aspen, I will say, is that there is a deepening in relationship with Aspen that is wanting to happen for you, right? And to release the thoughts that could get into a limitation of what it's supposed to look like, needs to look like, right? And to getting into these authentic conversations that you get to really reveal your heart. Right. And, you know, can CEOs and leaders reveal their hearts? Because we're taught not to. We're taught to just stay, you know, in our leadership position and, you know, remain logical, be the standard, stay strong. Don't reveal your heart in business. And that's a belief that we have. But could Christina Weber transmute that in the relationships that she has in business even? And so I'm just posing a question. I don't know the answer.
Well, it's interesting because a couple episodes ago, I believe it was 57, is on feminine leadership. And that's essentially what I see that you're pointing to is this way of leading from heart. And the thing is, feminine leadership takes more time than masculine leadership. Masculine leadership is like, cut through, go get it done, go check it off the box. Okay, great. And then they can go home and maybe process with a significant other. And I'm actually kind of even more of, I'm saying feminine, masculine. There's a little bit of women leadership in here because women are communal. We're processing emotions. We have menstrual cycles. Or living by the moon. And so there is this experience in order to, when your schedule is so timed, like I have in an hour, Aspen and I sit down and we are going to review job descriptions. And in that hour blocking, you want to take that time to get the job done, to do the work, to move it forward. And these conversations take time and processing. And her and I did recently go through an experience with two other colleagues where we had started to develop a new entity and then realize this entity is actually a part of the company without going into too much details. And this reshifting happened within that relationship. And because of it was 4 women involved, well, 3 women and plus Aspen, we were able to so gracefully, but also through the ickiness of like reconfigure our relationship and really live by that principle of putting relationships first, which has always been really important to me. Of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey in that book speaks about putting people first and putting the relationships first. And that's how I've always wanted to practice in business, similar to how I practice in relationships. And playing that game, as we know, I mean, you're in your relationship right now, your personal relationships, and it takes energy and time. And to be in that game, it's kind of the world around us is like, get to the money, get to the business, slow it down. So it's
right. And it's learning how to create space for these deepening of relationships while simultaneously creating boundaries, right? Boundaries around your time and your energy, and they can both coexist. It doesn't mean that you need to go off the deep end and, just focus on the relating aspects and continuing to bare your heart and et cetera. But it can be both. And yeah, Christina, I appreciate your vulnerability in sharing that. I could say mine because I said I would. And we have just a couple minutes left. So thanks for staying with us here. So for me right now, I am, understanding that I need support in creating the foundational structure for Unleash from a monetary standpoint, because I didn't go into Unleash from a business standpoint originally. It was a passion, and I knew that I needed to fulfill this dharmic path, if you will. It's my calling and my life's purpose. And so, I understand that I don't know everything about business. And so therefore I'm going to get support in that. And I have a couple of people that I will be meeting with this week that will help me in that. I also am actually doing an emotional freedom technique session for myself right after this, to work on the unhealed parts of my father wounding that still there's remnants there. And it's playing out in my, current, relationship in my love life. And I understand not just my love life, but it's also playing out in my business life, and getting this to this place of where I can find safety and security within myself that didn't exist when I was a child, and that my father wasn't there. And there was what I would consider abandonment and all of that. And to understand, just not just understand, but go to the places that I didn't feel, that I numbed myself in order to survive. And I want to get to those places that I've tucked in so deep that it's taken my romantic relationship to be such a divine mirror for me to take a look at it. And it's been 6 months in being in that divine reflection with her, over and over, for me to be like, okay, fine, I will look at this at the deepest level possible, because it is running my show and I can see it still running my show. And so I'm willing to go there, which is why I've also remained in this relationship, because I also feel like there's just something there for me that I have kept resisting and have continued to experience pain and suffering because of it. And so I'm choosing differently. I'm choosing to not continue to be in the pain and suffering, and just fucking take a look at it and feel the pain momentarily, because that's what you're going to have to do, is feel the pain momentarily so that you can get out of the bigger pain that will create havoc in all of your relationships, sabotage your health, your well-being, your money, and everything, just because we want to avoid the pain that we don't want to feel from something in the past. So by healing that in the past, you heal your present and you heal your future.
Thank you so much, Yadi. There is somebody that I want to introduce you to around business. And it was interesting when she was coming up, I've been wanting to meet with her for business. And I was thinking, oh my God, to bring Yadi into the meeting, but I need her too. And then I realized like that's also even too of something that keeps us in the moment of scarcity, and definitely to open up and sharing these. So I have a really beautiful resource that I want us both to meet with and deepen with. I will also, gene keys, just the last thing I coupled this in with the self-discovery modality, but the gene keys, the 64 ways of contemplation book is so powerful and has been so helpful for me to move through challenges. So I highly recommend that book. We'll include this list in the show notes, in the description. Thank you all for tuning into another episode of Deepen with Christina. Also, Yadi does have an Unleash retreat coming up. If you're listening to this before December is coming up, December 4th. This week, if you're listening to this podcast, the week that it's released, there is a really special prayer performance retreat happening in Nicaragua. And Yadi,
say it really quick. Yeah, it's called Unleash Your Prayer Former, and it's only 20 people max. There's 5 spots left. It's happening December 4th through the 10th in a amazing eco village with all organic food. And the idea behind this specific retreat is for people that know that there is an artist inside of yourself that has been longing to come out and be witnessed and be seen. And it's been kind of just stuck there feeling this pain for not coming out to play. That's who I'm calling forward, because that's what happened for me. There was an artist inside of me that desperately wanted to come out, and I needed support in doing so. And this is the support that I am providing for those people that know that you have a universe inside of you that wants to share your message with the world. So calling you in.
You can find out more about the Unleash Retreat at wedeepen.com. And one of the things that I will say of if you're considering going, it's the people that are there. Not only the program is actually amazing itself, but everything that we're talking about. There's a woman, Francesca Gentile, who is a part of the retreat. She is an intimacy expert. She is so knowledgeable about the art of BDSM. And for 30 years, I say she's an elder. She's in her 60s. I did a podcast episode with her, an early one on BDSM. Definitely a fascinating episode. Go check that out. I can't remember the number in the head, but it's BDSM with Francesca Gentile. And it's so beautiful to see her, witness her. She is somebody who consistently asks for help as being an elder and a leader. And it's so beautiful that she's a part of that prayer performance experience as well. Thank you all for listening to this episode of Deepen with Christina and for getting vulnerable with Yadi and I. Please, if you do enjoy this podcast, like, rate, subscribe. Spotify has that rating. You can give it 5 stars. I love that. And go check out the calendar, meet up with us, because while I record this podcast virtually, I'm really interested in being in the same space with you and introducing you to other people. Okay. Until next time. Bye, everybody. Love you.